Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the online Series 11 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we're trying out a Yveltal team featuring Sun that was able to win a online grassroots tournament organized by Victory Road a couple of weeks ago. This was used and built by Joe UX9, who I actually went up against in a fun exhibition best of 3 a couple of weeks ago in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. So if you want to watch more content, you haven't seen that already, I'll link it down in the description below. It was a really fun set. But this was a team that Joe had created, and yeah, he piloted to a first place victory in this tournament organized by Victory Road. Had just about under 100 players or so, and I think it was really impressive he was able to win with Yveltal, considering that it's not exactly one of the more common restricted Pokemon, and Yveltal alone obviously does not have a very good matchup into Zacian, which is the most common restricted Pokemon. So you might be wondering then, okay, why would you want to use Yveltal in this format? And the answer is that while it alone does not have a very good matchup into Zacian, it's actually very good into a lot of the other restricted Pokemon that you'll run into. Pokemon like Kyogre, Groudon, Calyrex Shadow Rider, for example, Yveltal is very strong into. And it's also just very good into a lot of the non-restricted Pokemon in the format as well, like opposing Venusaurs, for example. So Yveltal is one of those Pokemon where, okay, maybe it doesn't have the best matchup against Zacian, but against a lot of other Pokemon, it actually has quite a favorable matchup. And so this team is constructed in a way in which you have as much anti-Zacian as possible. You've got 2 Intimidators, an Incineroar and Landorus, nothing really too surprising there, as well as the Sun combination with Venusaur and Torkoal. Now, note that you'll have Life Orb Max Quake on the Landorus as well as Weather Ball on the Venusaur, so you essentially have 2 ways to get a one-hit knockout onto Zacian, especially if you Dynamax these Pokemon, right? Max Quake from Landorus and then Max Flare from Weather Ball with Venusaur in the Sun. You also have Torkoal here. This is a very bulky Torkoal with Burning Jealousy and Body Press and Yawn. It's a pretty standard set, but the reason this set is so powerful is because it's really difficult to switch Zacian in against this Torkoal, because a Burning Jealousy will burn them as they switch in and get the attack boost from their ability. And so, yeah, you have so many different ways to shut down Zacian. You also have Thunder Wave from Grimmsnarl, which is really valuable, because one combo you can go with is like Thunder Wave and then just Max Quake it with Landorus before they can even attack. And so the Pokemon in the sets here are all relatively standard, but I think this is definitely one of the most consistent Yveltal teams you can use. So if you're looking for just, an Yveltal team that is very well constructed, this is certainly it. So I've linked a team report written by Joe about this team in the description below, as well as a paste and Joe's YouTube channel. So please go check him out because, he's, the master of this team, and he has some really creative and intricate EV spreads. So I'd highly recommend reading the report to get a little bit more insight as well. So appreciate you all as always for watching. If you enjoyed, please show your support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, with 2021 coming to a end, I am curious on kind of some retrospective questions. So I want to know what your favorite format for this year was throughout all the different series that we played. I think for me, just because we played with Dynamax for so long, the most recent one, Series 10, was very intriguing. It was just refreshing to, be in a format without Dynamax, but this doesn't mean I didn't dislike, or I didn't like the Dynamax formats. I just like Series 10 a lot because it felt like a very different change of pace. So that's my answer, but let me know yours in the comment section below, and let's get started. Alright, getting into things here, and it is the classic Calyrex-I Rider team that we played plenty of times in the last month or so. This was, or is, just one of the most standard archetypes running around at the moment, so no surprise to really see it here. And it is just really powerful, right? Typically, you'll have Instant Mimikyu as a really strong lead to set up Trick Room, Calyrex-I Rider with Weakness Policy. You'll activate the Weakness Policy with Shadow Sneak from the Mimikyu, but you also have Regieleki as a really strong max option as well. So with this, it could be Insane, Grimmsnarl, Yveltal, and Torkoal, but it feels very odd to not bring Landorus and Venusaur, because those are both our best offensive options by far. If it's just an Incineroar and a Mimikyu lead, what's my best bet against that? Instant plus Mimikyu. My fear is I just don't do enough damage with the 4 Pokemon I just talked about. But Landorus and Venusaur are both so bad against Calyrex under Trick Room. Maybe it's still worth bringing. For example, I can lead the Torkoal plus Incineroar with Grimmsnarl and Yveltal in the back. The one reason why I feel okay going with this mode, despite us not bringing Landorus or Venusaur, is because my opponent's main offensive attacker is Calyrex-I Rider, And both of our fire types can actually deal decent damage to it, even though we're not very offensive on either Pokemon. So this is definitely an interesting one. Yveltal could be a max option as well. Normally you want to max Landorus or Venusaur, I'd say, more often than not. But it just doesn't make as much sense to me here. As always, when you're going up against these Calyrex Ice Rider teams, you basically just want to make it as hard as possible for them to actually get the Calyrex Ice Rider weakness policy setup going. They're faster with their Incineroar, which makes this interesting, because they can obviously fake out mine turn 1. Which, honestly, I'm okay with. Can break Mimikyu's Disguise here. That's not bad. I would guess they just click Fake Out into Torkoal here. I don't mind going for a Burning Jealousy here, and then I think... do I want to switch out here? I can always Parting Shot, but, like, of course, Incin might click Fake Out onto Incineroar, like, Fearing Taunt, right? And so, like, I feel like this is a decent opportunity to get Grimmsnarl out for free. So, I'm down for Burning Jealousy and then just switching my Incineroar out into Grimmsnarl. This also lets me conserve Intimidate and Fake Out for the remainder of the game as well. And even if they go for Fake Out into Torkoal, that's fine. I wanted to go for Burning Jealousy just to cover for them potentially switching out directly into Calyrex Ice Rider. They do go for Fake Out until the instant slot, okay. They actually go for Taunt, okay. So that obviously prevents me from going for Yawn later on, so that's quite a strong play. We'll get Burning Jealousy here. We'll break the Disguise on Mimikyu's end. And Taunt from Mimikyu is, I think, a really cool option here because it, denies me from going for Yawn, which otherwise would really, really disrupt them, right? If I get a Yawn off as you come in with Calyrex Ice Rider, you basically just have to switch it out once again, and that puts you in a really weird spot. So this next turn is interesting. If you're my opponent, Incineroar can just go for an attack. I think you're probably a little bit scared to just go out into Calyrex Ice Rider right now. I could double up onto Mimikyu with the Burning Jealousy and a Spirit Break. If you're an Incineroar right now for my opponent's end, what do you do? Also, this might seem crazy, but I actually like this as an option. And you're probably looking at me like, why in the world would you ever Dynamax Torkoal? But this is such a unique scenario where I just want to deny my opponent Trick Room. Their best way to get I want to deny them Trick Room from Mimikyu specifically and KO Mimikyu this turn. If we don't knock out Mimikyu and then they bring out the Calyrex, then the problem is even if Mimikyu just has 1 HP, they can always go for the Self-Shadow Sneak the subsequent turn. So this is a very unorthodox Dynamax, but I think this is a game in which like it actually makes sense to go for it. Okay, so they're going to go for Parting Shot into Torkoal. So I'm just hoping a -1 Burning Jealousy and Spirit Break's enough to KO the Mimikyu here. I also wonder now if you're my opponent, do you even bring out Calyrex Ice Rider? You've got to be scared of me targeting it, right? Yeah, and they actually are going to bring out the Amoonguss instead. Makes sense. Oh, interesting. They didn't even go for Trick Room. They went for Will-O-Wisp. Wow, okay. Well, it denies them Trick Room. I guess the scary thing is now Amoonguss being able to put things to sleep, but I'll knock out Mimikyu here, I think. Actually, with the burn now, and with us being at -1, I'm not so sure. So that did not play out how I expected it to in the slightest, but let's see if Burning Jealousy does enough damage here. Ooh, that is definitely not enough. Okay. So, the play I was trying to go for didn't really work out too well for us, unfortunately. But I think we're still honestly not in bad shape. I now am going to go for a Max Flare onto Amoonguss. And I'm actually going to Self-Thunder Wave my Torkoal so that you can't put it to sleep with the Spore. Yeah, I think the main thing there was, one, I was hoping they would Parting Shot. I guess there's very little reason to not Parting Shot Torkoal there. But I was thinking if we don't get burnt with the Grim, Spirit Break plus Max Flare would have done enough. But looking at Mimikyu's HP, I don't think it would have been, even without the burn. So, yeah. Okay, so we're going to sell T-Wave. Now you cannot put me to sleep with Spore. Mimikyu just goes for Taunt. So Taunt, Will-O-Wisp, Shadow Sneak Trick Room then probably. Okay, we're going to get the Flare off into Amoonguss here. Deny you Spore. Perfect. I have one more turn of Dynamax. Probably have to switch the Grimmsnarl out now. Did they Trick Room? You probably don't want to, right? Amoonguss maybe switches out into... I would switch Amoonguss out into Incineroar right now if I were my opponent. Can I do anything with that? Read into it, go for a Max Knuckle, switch in my Incineroar? I don't think that's a terrible play, honestly. Giving an Incineroar an attack boost means I can one-shot a lot of things. Amoonguss on the switch in, Calyrex Ice Rider, pre-Dynamax. Okay. This has been a very interesting game. Was my decision to max Torkoal the best? I think it made sense. I just really expected him to Trick Room there, so the lack of Trick Room was quite surprising. So there's the Amoonguss switch out. And there's Incin, okay. I guess the Knuckle doesn't really do much. It just negates the boost, but it's still fine. We've got Goggles. Like, the key thing against these Calyrex Ice Rider teams is just, like, don't give them the opportunity to easily self-Shadow Sneak and get the weakness policy off. If they don't have policy off, they're honestly not nearly as scary. Okay, so we get a Max Knuckle off, and now Incin's at neutral. Flare Blitz now into Mimikyu is like a guaranteed attack, like they cannot deny. I don't think you really Trick Room if you're my opponent. What do you do? Yeah, I mean, I'm down to just Body Press Incineroar here and just Flare Blitz into Mimikyu at this point, I think. The one scary thing is I obviously have Yveltal for this endgame against Calyrex, but Yveltal's going to get KO'd easily, right? Okay, they're going to fake out Incin. So they're finally Trick Rooming with Mimikyu. Okay. It's interesting. Because the thing is here, how do you get your Calyrex Ice in safely, right? How do you get that Shadow Sneak off? You would have to switch your Incineroar out into Calyrex. But if you do that, then Burning Jealousy just burns you. So I'm down to just Burning Jealousy here. I think ideally we switch Incineroar out because I want to reset this Intimidate. Burning Jealousy and Parting Shot. Because Mimikyu really does not threaten me at all, right? You're going to Will-O-Wisp or Shadow Sneak. You have no Play Rough because you have Taunt. Or maybe they do have Play Rough. Okay. We get paralyzed, but... Well, the problem is they're going to Parting Shot here, aren't they? They didn't hard switch out, which is smart. Now I can bring out Yveltal. And then with Yveltal, I'm probably going to switch back out into Incin the next turn. I don't even know if I could have KO'd Mimikyu here, but of course I could have knocked out the Incineroar. Okay, they go for yet another Taunt. And then I'm sure a Parting Shot with their Incin, right? Now, this does allow them to get their Calyrex in safely now. And they can obviously finally go for the Shadow Sneak play. So it makes this next turn very interesting. Do you expect me to switch Yveltal out? Okay, Calyrex comes in. I would Max Quick the Torkoal slot here. Oh, actually, Taunt just wore off, so do you go for that? I don't know. Wait, also, because you have Trick Room up and I paralyze myself, I'll just burn you if you go for Self-Shadow Sneak. So I think it's totally fine to just go for Burning Jealousy and then switch out into Incineroar right now. The key thing this turn is we really do want to avoid full para. So that's like the slight risk in going for Thunder Wave earlier, but I think it made sense. This is what I mean though, right? Never make it easy for your opponent's Calyrex to just get boosted up. Oh, but you know what they could do here is they could intentionally not shelf Shadow Sneak right now. You just go for a Taunt with your Mimikyu instead of Shadow Sneaking to prevent me from burning you with Burning Jealousy. That's actually the right play. Yeah. So let's see if they find it. If they go for Self-Shadow Sneak here, I actually think they just lose the game right now. Because you just won't have any damage output at that point. You'll have a burnt Calyrex. And with the Intimidate. Nice. They went for it. Okay. So we're really hoping there's no full para here. If there's no full para, I am very confident in this endgame for us. Beautiful. This was such an interesting game. Like, I can't remember the last time I played a game in such like an unorthodox manner. And I don't see, the thing is, like, the other reason why I feel okay about it is because we never really had that good of a max option anyway. Like, Yveltal, not a great max option into this matchup. Incin maybe is a little bit okay, but feels kind of awkward. And this turn played out perfectly too. They even went for Glacial Lance, which is even better. And we're Goggles on the Incin here, so yeah. Like, we've barely taken any damage, but I do want to do some post-game reflection after the match is actually over. Yveltal just hard wins against Amoonguss and Mimikyu, so that's a key win condition to preserve right now. You're at +1, but you're burnt. I'm not taunted at the moment, and I have a fake out with Incin right now. But I think switching Incin out into Grimmsnarl is acceptable. I'm actually running out of PP with Burning Jealousy. Yeah, let's go out in a Grim. We can go out in a Grim, we can set up a Reflect, and then the thing is, my opponent's team has so little offense outside of the Calyrex, right? Like, Mimikyu only has Shadow Sneak. I don't know, like, Amoonguss is not really going to have any damage. Although I do need to respect both Spore and the potential Pollen Puff here. So what I'm basically going to do is attack around Calyrex right now because we were able to get that burn off. However, even though now we look like we're in a really commanding position, I think if my opponent let me burn, just activate their weakness policy with Burning Jealousy and then just max Quake Torkoal, I actually probably would have lost the game from that position, which is why one turn could completely change the outcome of the match, and I don't love that I put myself in a position like that, which is why I want to reflect a little bit on maybe where I could have improved on. And this game right now isn't even over yet, right? So let's focus on winning first. But they're going to Quake into Grim. Perfect. We survived that. Special defense boost is fine because Yveltal's looking quite nice for this end game. It's the last turn of Trick Room now. I think it's fine to switch Torkoal out because I kind of want to reset the weather, so get another Intimidate off here and Reflect. They're only physical damage at this point in the game. Well, I mean, I guess Amoonguss has some special damage, but that's not really scary. Yeah, I don't mind this. Like, you're burnt already, and you're going to be at neutral attack at this point, so I don't think a Max Quick will KO Incineroar, and Incineroar has safety goggles, so I can take an attack from the Amoonguss. My opponent just Trick Roomed a lot later than I expected it to. I expected them to Trick Room the turn that I maxed the Torkoal. My internal damage calc, unfortunately, though, was a little bit off, because I thought Max Flare and Spirit Break would get the knockout there. And in my head, I was like, well, if you try to Trick Room and I just get the KO, then it's really difficult for you to come back, because it means like Calyrex's weakness policy is so much harder to activate, right? But I guess one thing I didn't consider is maybe they had Pollen Puff on Amoonguss, and you would just Pollen Puff it to activate your policy. That's another approach they could have taken. Okay. So we're going to get Reflect up now. Maybe Calyrex gets an attack boost because it targets the Grimmsnarl, but that's fine. They Spore into the safety goggles. Perfect. Double up in that slot makes a lot of sense in my eyes. So let's see if they went for that. Nope, they just split their damage. Okay. And Grimmsnarl survives thanks to Reflect. Perfect. Okay, fantastic. If we feint from Burn here, that's actually amazing because it just gives me a free switch in now. So let's see if that's the case. Should be, right? Yeah, perfect. Great. So now Calyrex is burnt, and you are at neutral attack. So we completely stop that weakness policy. This allows me to bring in Torkoal back in now, and Amoonguss is rendered useless right now because of the Self-Thunder Wave earlier on Torkoal. Even if I get full parry once or twice, honestly, it's totally okay. I would guess Amoonguss protects here, and I have a very free Flare Blitz into the Calyrex slot, so I'm just going to Flare Blitz and Burning Jealousy here. I think the one way we lose this game at this point is like a crit from a Max Quake. So this goes to show how sometimes you can take like unexpected paths to win a game, right? My game plan coming into this was not to Dynamax Torkoal really ever. Okay, Amoonguss switches out, that's fine. I don't really care about Amoonguss because it just like doesn't scare me very much in this endgame. Okay, Instinct comes in. Yeah, the key thing here is, like, everything's whittled away, and my opponent just has so little damage output, right? Okay, so we'll get the Flare Blitz off into Calyrex, and yeah, with that switch in, you know, they will be able to survive, so it's a good switch. And, oh, they're going to Hailstorm, actually. Okay, I like that decision, change the weather. They target Incin, also covers for me switching out into Yveltal, potentially, in that spot. But I have very little incentive to switch right now, because I am confident we can survive a Max Quake from that position, given the Intimidates and the Burns. And now I think their Incin actually faints from the hail as well. Perfect. Okay. Everyone takes a little bit of hail damage. Now what? I don't really see a good path to victory here. Your Dynamax just ends on Calyrex. I've got Goggles, so your Amoonguss is completely useless right now. And your Calyrex is still not that scary. Yeah, I mean, Amoonguss at best can go for a Pollen Puff, but I always get Flare Blitz off before a Pollen Puff, right? So I'm fine just going for Flare Blitz and Burning Jealousy here, I think. Because we're faster with the Incineroar relative to Calyrex, right? So you can never Pollen Puff without me KOing Calyrex beforehand. Unless Flare Blitz doesn't KO from this range, but I'm fairly confident it will. Like, granted, Sun's not up, Intimidate's no longer around, but it's only at like 25%. So let's see if it indeed is enough for a knockout. Beautiful. Yeah, I have to say, even though this felt like pretty convincing, it all honestly really came down to the turn they went for the Self-Shadow Sneak. And I don't love that, so kind of want to think about where I could have played better. And maybe it was just the decision where I... Hex! I didn't even know Amoonguss got that attack. Whoa. That's cool. I was talking about how my opponent doesn't have any offense left, but I guess Amoonguss with Hex is certainly some offense. Okay. Either way, though, yeah, like, that's still not enough. And at this point, Yveltal hard wins, right? Like, what's interesting about this matchup is if you can eliminate Calyrex Ice Rider, Yveltal really should sweep, especially if they don't have Play Rough on the Mimikyu. It just took me so long to actually eliminate Calyrex, right? And, like, it's a pretty hard win condition to say, okay, just eliminate Calyrex, because these teams often completely center around Calyrex. But at this point, we know you only have Shadow Sneak. You've got Hex, which is kind of interesting. I am at -1. We never want to switch in Yveltal here because there's no reason to risk getting hit by a Spore. So it's truthfully fine to just Burning Jealousy and Flare Blitz here. Yveltal will always win this endgame for us. And yeah, I think my opponent recognizes that. So that has got to be one of the most interesting games I've had in a while on Road to Ranked, honestly. Just because, yeah, we took it on Orthodox line. It didn't really work the turn I was hoping to kind of like just win the game, but it still like put us in an okay spot. The Mimikyu set, I mean, isn't surprising, but I feel like normally I expect Play Rough and you drop one of Taunt and Will-O-Wisp, so them having both attacks made things a little bit trickier. But yeah, the thing is, like, I don't really feel comfortable maxing Landorus or Venusaur in this game, so didn't really feel great about those. Because they had Taunt, it was actually harder to, you know, get Yawn stuff off with Torkoal as well, so I didn't feel amazing about that, taking that strategy. And so I was like, okay, I might as well just chip away at things. Now, we missed out on some opportunities to maybe just go for Body Press. The main turn I'm thinking about was the turn when their Incineroar went Parting Shot and they actually got the free switch and back into Calyrex Ice Rider. But there's no way I could have knocked out the Mimikyu death turn, right? Because I don't think Burning Jealousy plus an attack from my Incin was... Oh, no. It was my Grimmsnarl out, and Grimmsnarl was burnt, so... Yeah, if I'm confident Burning Jealousy at -1 plus like a Spirit Break from burnt Grimmsnarl knocks out Mimikyu and denies them Trick Room, then maybe that's the better play. But I don't know that that's the case. So, yeah. This is an interesting matchup for sure. And I really think it actually basically came down to that one big turn. And fortunately enough for us, they did Self-Shadow Sneak, allowing us to burn them. But yeah, definitely an exhilarating match. So let's look for another one. Alright, next game here, and it is Zacian Sun. Pretty standard stuff. There's just the one Sableye let maybe is a little bit unorthodox. So I also don't know if this is an amazing matchup for Yveltal. Okay, Charizard's really scary here in my opinion. But I do have Thunder Wave on Grimmsnarl, which is very handy. So I really like leading Grim here. The one lead to watch out for if I'm thinking about leading Grimmsnarl is Sableye, because they can fake out me before I get an attack off, and then Zacian can just Behemoth Blade us. So we want to cover ideally for Sableye plus Zacian, I think. And with that, I could maybe go Venusaur, because with this, then I can turn one switch Grim out into Torkoal and just max Flare. I just feel so weak to Charizard here. Like, my only way to KO it easily is a Landorus Max Quake. This could be a matchup where we drop Yveltal, honestly. It is just not good against Charizard or the Zacian here. Like, it's really, really bad into both of those. I can barely do damage into either, and it can kind of just wreck me. Might just be Torkoal and Landorus. Like, the angle I'm going for here is a Thunder Wave or a Sleep Powder onto Charizard. Because Charizard actually kind of sweeps me here. I guess the one thing is that Sableye might have to Sunny Day in order to actually get it, like, you know, fully online. But, yeah, I think this is just tough, and I don't think Yveltal does enough for us in this one. Okay, it's Zacian plus Regieleki. Okay, so they don't lead with Sableye. Don't bring a Charizard either. We have a lot of interesting options turn 1. Just double checking Venusaur speed here. 226. So we don't outspeed Regieleki. We'll outspeed Zacian if they don't Electro Web us with Regieleki turn 1. Because the play I can make right now is just switch Grim out into Torkoal. And Max Flare. I feel like I need to max Landorus in this game, though, is the problem. Yeah, I'm actually going for Thunder Wave here. Okay. The fact that we don't miss there is a really big deal, actually. They did go for Electro Web too. Okay, so I'm really glad I didn't Dynamax there then. Could be really, really bad. This is actually a huge deal, I think, because it means I can bring in Landorus now and max Airstream. And that means I can outspeed Charizard. Oh, and they get fully parried. That's absolutely huge. Regardless of who they were targeting, like, it would probably get a KO, and then I would just bring Landorus in for free. But I actually think that's like a potentially game-winning full paralysis right there. That's a huge deal. Because it means now I can go for... We're never switching out here. Basically, the idea here is to cover for my opponent's Charizard in the back. I absolutely cannot let it go off in this game. And I need to position myself in a way that I don't just get swept by immediately. So here, I actually like going for a Light Screen rather than a Reflect, because I really want to handle that Charizard still. And I'll just go for another Earth Power here on a Zacian. Okay, so we get Light Screen up. Yeah, like, I wouldn't actually have minded my opponent picking up a knockout there, because it would give me a free switch in into Zacian, and then Zacian could just go for a max move onto... Or, sorry, Landorus. And then Landorus could just go for a max move onto their Zacian. But, you know, this is why going for early parallels can be super, super valuable as well. And I assume Behemoth Blade still KOs either, even with Reflect being... Or, sorry, I didn't even set up Reflect. But they target Venusaur, which is perfect. Okay, great. So now I can bring in Landorus. They did get a crit there. I honestly wonder if Venusaur could have survived. I feel like probably not, but I'm not 100% sure. Okay, so it's time to bring out Landorus now. Now my main question is whether or not a Life Orb Max Airstream KOs Zacian at like 40%. Really depends on their EV spread. But you know what? I don't think we need to go for it, right? The reason I want to Airstream is so that I can outspeed Charizard. But the thing is that Charizard's not that scary if the sun isn't up, especially because I've set up Light Screen anyway. I don't need Reflect this turn if I'm going to Quake Zacian. I went for Airstream into Zacian just because I think Zacian almost always protects her switches here. Yeah. Into Charizard. Beautiful. See, we had to play this matchup in such a particular way. Because I'm just so weak into Charizard. And that play was a little bit risky, but I figured since we have Reflect up and they're Intimidated and we're Dynamaxed, Well, I mean, a Behemoth Blade was certainly not one-shot Landorus. And as long as you don't one-shot us, that's what matters, right? And now we're actually in a really, really good spot. So, Reflect goes up. Volt Switch? Yep. Either way, though, like, I wanted to Airstream just to ensure I outspeed Charizard before it gets on the field, but now this is even better because I deal so much damage to it. And their last one, Sableye. Perfect. I said perfect, but actually now they can potentially quash into a move onto Landorus, and we one-shot Charizard. Amazing. Okay, yeah, this is what I was angling for this entire game. I just got rid of, like, your best Dynamax option by far. So, this is a good example of addressing your opponent's primary win conditions. Like, I recognize I'm really weak to Charizard, so I had to play the game in a way that basically prevented Charizard from coming out and just sweeping me. And, you know, the main things we tried to do here are, one, like, you know, notice that my opponent didn't bring it out immediately, so basically make it difficult for them to get it in for free. And then two, look for getting, like, a speed boost so that I can take advantage of the fact I'll outspeed them, right, before they come out. Now, this position is interesting because if you're my opponent, you can obviously Quash and Behemoth Blade into Landorus. So my question then is, does that KO us? Because what I could do is actually just switch Landorus out right now and just Spirit Break Sableye. Now, you're probably saying, well, why in the world would you do that? Well, two reasons. One, Landorus hard wins against Regieleki in this endgame. And if you're my opponent, you only have one real Dynamax option at this point, and it is Regieleki, right? And two, even if like you end up knocking out my Grimmsnarl here, I just get the free switch him back into Landorus, and then now I have Landorus and Torkoal, both which put on a lot of offensive pressure against Zacian. So today's been a really interesting day because it's like we got what feels like very little mileage out of our Dynamaxes, but I actually felt okay about that in both scenarios. There's the Quash, beautiful. We'll see if they bladed into Landorus as well. You would think so, but if they targeted Grim, that'd be a very good play. Perfect. Okay, now we get Torkoal in for free, essentially. That's amazing. And now this denies them the free switch and into Regieleki at any point as well. Okay, they're not Roselli Berry, but we don't get the knockout there. That's fine, though. Perfect. And it's Citrus, or one of the Fewon berries. Which one is it? Just Citrus, okay. Okay, this game is not over yet. If you're my opponent here, you have to protect the Zacian, I think. You protect Zacian. So basically, I'm angling for... I mean, it basically comes down to whether or not they're Landorus, or sorry, they have max strike on Regieleki and whether or not it one-shots us. But they're not... it's probably Focus Sash Regieleki, actually, right? I still have Light Screen up, which is obviously good. Okay, I'm gonna go for Spirit Break and Burning Jealousy. And I'm actually gonna Spirit Break the Zacian slot because I want them to protect here. Oh, Sableye actually just made the switch. Okay. That's a good play. That's a good play. That was really risky by them. And the reason, like, if I had just Spirit Breaked into the Sableye slot, I actually probably just would have won the game immediately there. So they took a really big risk, but this actually pays off really heavily for them. So well done. This might be enough for them to actually get back into the game and actually potentially win now. Because now you can Dynamax Regieleki and you can obviously max Lightning into Torkoal, right? So once again, my question is this Zacian, or sorry, the Regieleki moveset, do you have max strike? But I do break a potential Sash now. So here I will just Spirit Break Regieleki and then protect into Torkoal. Landorus can win this game 3v1 from this position, or 1v3 with Earthquake. What I don't want to do is switch Torkoal out into Landorus and then eat up a max strike into Behemoth Blade, or even a max Lightning, which I resist, or I'm immune to, but then they also Behemoth Blade us. They don't Dynamax, which is interesting. Okay. Kind of risky to not max their might. Well, actually, maybe not. Maybe it's not risky because you know Burning Jealousy isn't going to KO you there anyway. Certainly an interesting decision. Okay. Now we bring out Landorus. Now my primary fear is that the Zacian Behemoth Blade still KOs us. Yeah, I really thought they would just give up Sableye and not just switch it out the way they did, because we would have immediately won the game by getting nailing Aleki on the switch in, so that was a nice play by them. We should survive a Behemoth Blade though, right? So here I would think Zacian protects and Aleki just attacks. I think I do need an Earthquake here though, which certainly hurts. And there's no reason to not go for a double protect here with Torkoal in my eyes. You actually could Burning Jealousy as well to cover for them having... I wonder if they just forgot they didn't Dynamax in this game. Because you should always Dynamax there. But since they ended up... They don't have Max Strike, it looks like. This game was over anyway. Even if we didn't get the double protect off, and even if they Max there. What they needed to do was protect Zacian there, sacrifice Aleki, bring Sableye out, and then go for Quash plus Behemoth Blade, and then hope for a critical hit onto Landorus. That's your path to victory. Yeah, I don't think Behemoth Blade KOs Landorus without because of us having the Intimidate. And both Sableye and Zacian were so low that even if you had Will-O-Wisp, we'd still win the game. Okay, so here... I mean, it's fine, Earthquake. It doesn't matter. Sableye's never KOing Landorus in one shot anyway. So, yeah. This was such an interesting game. We started off with a very lucky turn 1, right? Like, Venusaur basically got an extra turn, which, actually did it. It ended up fainting before we got another attack off anyway, right? But it denied me a free switch in. So it's Life Orb, Charizard, Citrus, Foul Play, Will-O-Wisp, Quash, Sunny Day on Sableye, Wide Lens, Venusaur, which did not come out. It was Focus Sash Aleki. Okay, yeah. And I guess, like... They didn't max because, maybe they were thinking about maxing Sableye, but yeah. Like, I think you should always max because you at least have more HP, right? So I went for Spirit Break into Zacian because basically what I was angling for was I was thinking if you're in my opponent's shoes, you never want to switch out into Aleki because you would throw away the game immediately if Aleki just faints there. And so I was thinking, well, they might intentionally try to stay in with Sableye, so I'm going to do everything in my power to not knock out Sableye. Hopefully then the subsequent turn, then I can just Spirit Break Burning Jealousy and just pick up a double KO afterwards. But maybe Sableye would have fainted to a Burning Jealousy at that point anyway. I'm not sure. So Assault Vest on the Landorus, and then Rusted Sword, obviously, on Zacian with Wild Charge. Pretty cool. Yep, just standard max speed. So yeah, Charizard plus Sableye was the main combo I wanted to deny here, and getting that turn 1 Thunder Wave off into Zacian was a really big deal. I think if the full para didn't happen, then... I'd assume they Behemoth Bladed Venusaur, so then I would have gotten a free switch into Landorus, and then I would just make the same Max Airstream play, essentially. It's just that we would basically have an extra turn, or like they would have knocked out Venusaur like one turn sooner, essentially, right? But yeah, I did not feel confident maxing Venusaur in that early game because they had the Electro Web stuff. And because even if we max Venusaur and knock out Zacian, they just sweep us with Charizard. And like, that's an example where maybe I get baited into Dynamaxing on turn 1. If I do, I actually just immediately lose the game, it feels like, because I have no counterplay to Charizard whatsoever. So it played out even better than I expected to because they switched Zacian out into Charizard, so we just got a free knockout onto it. But the idea was that, you know, if you switch in, if you stay in, maybe Max Airstream just KOs, even if it doesn't, well, you're not one-shotting Landorus, and if you switch out, we just get the knockout immediately. It felt like it should have just been game over immediately after that, but the thing is, I didn't really get too much mileage out of my Dynamax after that one big KO, mainly because I didn't want my Landorus to just faint to a Quash plus a Behemoth Blade, so, you know, got the free switch into Torkoal. And fortunately for us, Aleki didn't have Max Strike, but if they did, they actually could have won this game. But given that they didn't have Life Orb on Aleki either, I felt like the odds of them having Hyper Beam were pretty slim, because normally you'll see Hyper Beam on like the full offensive sets that really want to Dynamax, and those almost always have Life Orb. Yeah, and so I figured, and they didn't have another good like Sash user on this team either. So yeah. Those are definitely two really interesting matches, though, and it goes to show how you can take like very unorthodox ways to play VGC, right? You don't necessarily have to just have your Dynamax Pokemon out for 3 turns and sweep with it necessarily. And even though that is the case more often than not, often there are some other creative approaches you can have depending on the scenario. So yeah, I thought this episode was super interesting. Yveltal did not really get to shine. It was just not the right matchups for it. So hopefully you'll have a better day tomorrow. But either way, it really highlights the rest of the team's strength, right? The reason why this is such a good team is because it covers for Yveltal's weaknesses so well. So much to the point where we often don't even need to bring Yveltal. And I think that's a cool note in kind of how team construction construction is, is built basically. So thanks so much as always for watching. Thanks to Joe once again for the team. Check him out, linked in the description below. Leave a like if you enjoy. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.